In terms of barriers, well, first of all, we've got to describe what they were for you.
I did music at school. They wanted me to be the main role in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. And even then, I got taken off the role because I wanted to remix the tunes up, and I wanted to like change them up a little bit. I wanted them to be more up to date, was my opinion. I always kind of clashed a lot with my music teachers. And I remember like school was just like not ready to kind of maybe move forward. It was all this old traditional stuff. And I said, even though I kind of was into all types of music and all different types of styles, I'm trying to look at what the future sound is going to be. And that's still right now.
I know artists, I know people that have music that's good and they're like, oh, I don't know how to upload to Spotify.
I feel like it's much easier than ever to get music out there. Some people learn differently. Like some people need to be shown how to do it so that they learn that way. Or some people could just watch a YouTube video, or some people could just follow instructions. But I don't feel like you have as many barriers to get your music out there. And also, you're so accessible to contact people. So if you need some graphics for some artwork done, if your artwork's not good enough, you could just go on Instagram and just search. Or just ask around, and especially if you're in college, like that's even easier. Or just go on your Facebook like college wall and just say, actually, I need the graphic design for. But then you can make it fun. You can do a competition for it. Say, I've got this release for this tune. The best artwork. If you got a bit of money, say you'll give them 20 quid for it, or do you know what I mean? Or you'll design some t-shirts around it. There's so much stuff to do. So I'm not a person that would take people who's got excuses for anything. I don't upload any music. I always go to labels, but because I've always worked that way. But if I needed to upload my own music, I would probably go on YouTube first, or I will go and ask somebody who I know can do that. So you shouldn't have excuses not to be able to do anything, especially if you've got a passion for it. If you really love what you do and you want to go and make a music video, but you haven't got a budget for that music video, then you need to be calling in favors or finding out what could you do then for this like video maker, like, and just collaborating. But if you got a passion for it, you'll make it work regardless of what's around you or what resources you got. You have to.
Both ourselves are members of the BAME community. With you, you've got an extra facet to that of being a woman as well in the music industry. And have you felt like that's been a barrier?
There have been times in the industry where I have felt invisible as a woman, absolutely. Produced a music video with an award-winning director, Rapman. And even in that setting, it was very difficult to sort of assert myself as the producer, just because it was very male dominated, and the different people that you have to sort of like manage on the set, they don't always listen to what you're saying. Absolutely. And especially when a lot of people know each other, there's a sort of camaraderie, if you will, between some of the men that are on the set. So myself trying to assert, myself in a way where we can actually get the filming done, or we need to move people from one area to another area, it was seemingly difficult. And again, I don't want anybody to have to validate me, because I do believe that what I bring to the table, I have a saying actually that, it's not about what I bring to the table, because I am the table itself. And I truly believe that. I feel like, I've got all of the skills necessary to do a great job, but sometimes you do need a little bit of validation from those around you for people to actually acknowledge who you are and what you're there to do.
So without the guidance, what did you guys do? Did you have anyone you knew, any other people in other counties doing music?
Right, there's lots of people that has been a massive positive influence on us. There was my uncle, and he helped me get like my first shows and parties on the go. Like I had some older friends, one called Lewis Sinclair, who runs a distribution company called Cygnus. Like he was the first one to get me on like a D&B show. There was Donovan Bad Boy Smith. I had loads of good influences, but not a person I could actually say, oh, this person told me about distribution, this person told me about how to look to get a record deal, or talk to me about publishing. So we never had that kind of guidance or knowledge. And anything that we learned was kind of self-taught within the kind of industry on that side. We learned from like promoters. I learned from like my uncle putting on parties, how it was done, like getting the flyers out, booking artists and stuff like that. So you do kind of learn from the people around you and the knowledge that you have around you.
Do you think there's been any direct consequences from the fact that you didn't have that guidance?
I feel like us being free and not having that knowledge, and us not trying to follow a trend or a thing that was happening, like, I feel like me and Malachi shared years later down the line, we probably was making a sort of dubstep sound without even knowing what dubstep was. We said, imagine if we had got in contact with the people like Pinch and like Scream and Mala, like from those early stages when we was making stuff.
Yeah.
But we didn't have anyone else around us that was doing this kind of style.
Yeah.
And we was just being experimental, and but then we never had the knowledge of how do we get music out there, how do we get it pressed up onto record and stuff like that. But at the same time, it was just us doing what we just loved, and it was just a passion that we had naturally, so that we wasn't trying to follow any trends or any genre or anything like that. We were just making beats.
I'm not taking away from the people who have lost loved ones last year, but I actually feel that 2020 was a pinnacle year for creativity. I feel that when you have so much things taken away from you, you have to, it's sink or swim. And I feel that a lot of people in the creative industries, they were swimming last year. They were fun crawling all over last year. And even for myself, you know, when I had some areas that I wasn't able to continue in, you know, not being able to go into the office, my business really sort of like ramped up, and I really had to make a decision as to how I was going to live out the rest of my year. Was I going to be seldom about it, and was I going to be really upset with all of the cards that had been dealt to me, or was I going to go for another round of blackjack and beat everybody at the table and go for knuckles? Do you know what I mean? Like I had to make a decision and say to myself, actually, this is giving me the opportunity to, one, do a lot of the things that I didn't have time to do before, to really just stop, take a moment and evaluate where I'm at and whether or not I am going in the right direction. You know, I'm in all these different vehicles jumping in and out like I'm playing GTA, but am I going in the right direction? And it gave me an opportunity to actually spend a lot of time with myself, with my mind, ensure that my mental health was not taking the bashing it had taken for the first half of 2020. And then I started making decisions. I started doing positive affirmations every day. And I started reminding myself that I'm still here, which is a major feat because a lot of people didn't make it through last year. But also, I now have a fresh start and an opportunity to really make it count. So every day, what am I going to do to make it count? And it was at the end of last year that I decided that instead of living my life as like this one big circle, I was going to cut it up and just live on a daily basis. So for me, every day is 24 hours and it resets, you know, and I decide what happens with that day. If I don't do, you know, the 10 things on my to-do list that I wanted to do, you know, what else can I do? And so I kind of found that I was able to really navigate through just being okay with whatever happens, really. And, you know, I'm good with whatever happens on a daily basis. I'm comfortable with whatever happens on a daily basis. And yeah, I just know that I'm good. I'm content. And I haven't felt this content for a little while, to be honest.
Yeah. Would you say that to see like all these sort of innovative ways to deliver, you know, even delivering, just changing the way you're delivering the same thing we was delivering before.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's still people figuring out, you know, things, you know, for example, you know, like, you know, you can't go see a live show and it hasn't, you know, you can't really replace that. But what can we do to sort of, you know, tackle that craving that people have for that, you know, in different ways?
Yeah.
It's been mad interesting to see that whole sink or swim, you know, dynamic. And, you know, it's interesting to hear personally from you, like how, you know, you've had to think about your days differently. And, you know, I think we all have to change our perspective because unfortunately a virus doesn't care if you have plans. It doesn't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, like, yeah, I think I'd agree if there was a positive change anywhere. I think I don't know if that was a change, if people were like that before, but I definitely feel like people are more open to like new ideas now, you know, in my experience, and sort of people have been a bit more accepting. I think there's just that general appreciation in it, like it just gives you an extra appreciation to things. And
absolutely,
yeah, it's definitely been interesting.
Not the same old anymore. And now we have this opportunity that we have to take autonomy over our lives, and we have to say what we want to do and how we want to do it. Everything is attainable, everything is achievable. We've seen people before us do it, so why not us?
There's a lot more opportunity to take the power into your hands, despite the barriers that are there. There's ways to get around. And
there's loads of things that you can. Before, you would have to watch Channel U. Like, I just watched Channel U and MTV all the time. Just always just having to either stay up late to listen to any sort of like garage show or grime show. But now you could just go on and make your own playlist on Spotify or Apple Music, or then you could just go on the internet and listen back to any shows. You can go onto like Swoo FM or Rinse FM and listen to any shows that you want to, like of artists that you're into. So that's the power in that way. But even as an artist, you've got control. You can have more control over your music. You control when it goes out. You don't have to be trying to make music and trying to give it to a label to try and push out for you or promote. It is hard if you haven't got no money and stuff like that. But there is ways you can still do it and build up that way. And I feel like if your music is decent or good enough, money will start to generate a little bit from it, and then you can invest your time and your money that you make into it. It's like, it is a passion. Like,
yeah, it's nice to see that. It's nice to see it now as well. You know, I've seen my mates that are students, you know, a lot of them are starting to take, especially since the lockdown and things like that, a lot of people have become a bit more creative in the means that they're trying to generate revenue or trying to get more exposure and things like that.
You have to though, you have to. I've got a friend called Tyrone, and his engagement online, social media, is through the roof. It's unbelievable. He's getting like to 4,000 followers like per day, or every couple of days now. And he's been very active in lockdown, more than ever. It's so successful, like how he's like built up and just kept going and got a good traction going.
What's the most positive change you've seen so far working in music?
What in lockdown, like the most positive change?
You can separate into two. How about in general? How about we have in general and then in lockdown? Because I think lockdown does deserve its own sort of bit of attention as well.
Yeah, I feel in general, it's so amazing to see independent artists really like capitalize, like really do well. It's amazing to see people like Dave like be on at Glastonbury, or like Stormzy headlining at Glastonbury, like just stuff like that. And it's like almost like you see people around you. It's so inspiring. Like I get inspired by seeing artists I know, artists I've met do well, and it gives me almost like hope and pray. And I feel like more artists have more control and power over what they want to do and how they want their music out there and their content that they're doing.
One of my mentors took me aside one day, you know, when I was underachieving, when I could have been achieving, and said, you know, by the way, you've got what it takes, you can do this.
I want to point out as well that people have this idea of mentorship being someone who's older, has done what you're trying to do. But it doesn't always have to be someone that's older. If there's someone who has done what you're trying to do in the industry, you know, it can also be someone who's younger than you. You know, I work in a predominantly younger environment, but I learn every day from people about how to do business, how to go about things. You know, Javan Wade and Purcell Ascot, who are the CEOs of the Wall of Comedy, which is another organisation where I'm the head of talent at. And, you know, the managing director, Tafara, you know, they're all younger than me, but I learn so much from these people. And I also extend life skills as well, because obviously I'm older than them. So it's a give and take, sharing aspect of things. And it's a transfer of skills where the skills that they have, I'm able to sort of absorb, and the skills that I have, they're able to absorb. And it's important to really, I would say, know your tribe and have a visual and an understanding of the vision. What is it that you're trying to achieve collectively? What is it you're trying to achieve individually? And how are you going to get there? Without having the people who have done what we are trying to do and showing us the blueprints, it would be almost impossible, because everything that they have done with their company, and even things that I've done with my company, it's actually impossible when you think about it, because life in business should be technically, quote unquote, very structured, but the environments around that are not very structured. So here we are in, a pandemic still, and, there's lots of businesses that have been affected. How are you going to reinvent yourself? How are you going to continue? How are you going to keep yourself afloat? You don't learn all of these things at business school. You learn all of these things from life skills. So that's kind of like where I can step in and sort of support. But on the flip side of that, when it comes to media production and even social media, before I started working with those guys 3-4 years ago, I didn't even use social media. So, it's really important to sort of move with each other and learn from each other. I feel like sometimes we need to reevaluate what our own ideals of mentorship looks like and what mentorship is. Yeah. And then, just moving forward with people who have got a collective vision for something that they want to achieve.
What, in your opinion, would sort of you say organization can do to help enable a young creative, from your experience and from what you've seen?
I think internships and apprenticeships are very important. I feel that a lot of companies don't necessarily utilize people as much, but then there's also a thin line because some over-utilize people. I think it's really important to have a conversation with the young people that you're taking on board and trying to find out what it is that they want at the end of it. One of the interns that we had at the Wall of Comedy was so competent and amazing that they're now part of the social media team. And I think that's the kind of transition that I think people are looking for. When you look at opportunities, it's not just okay, thanks for your time and goodbye. Well, no, if I'm really good at my job and I'm really good at really taking this young person and giving them the skill set that they need in order to work in any kind of environment, what that looks like on the other end is actually a representation of me and how I've actually given them the life skills, how I've actually upskilled them in a sense to be able to work in a corporate environment or a creative environment, depending on obviously which avenue they're looking at. So it's a reflection on me as to how they move in the next area of their life. And if I've done a great job and they really enjoy the company and they want to stay, it should be something that I would like to integrate into my organization. Otherwise, I don't really understand the point of having an intern or an apprenticeship in the first place, unless it is just to give young people skills. Obviously, it's variable. So there's so many different ways in which you can do it. But in terms of in the creative industry, I think a lot more organizations should be looking to take on interns with a view to have long-term support from that person and to really invest in them and really invest in the next area of life, really, and hopefully that is with the company.
When you first started making music, basically had zero experience from the sound of things and was basically just sort of like, let's give it a go.
To me, it's just a passion for music. I think we both had just a love for music, and both our dads come from like a sound system culture. Like his dad was in a sound, my dad was in a sound. Like the elders around us, like our uncles or cousins, everyone just really, music is a big influence in a lot of people's lives. I think I've always been into hearing new music and new sounds and stuff like that. We just was making whatever we wanted to do, but we had no guidance. So we both had that PlayStation like music maker. Guess lots of people around us at the time thought, yeah, we're sick on it, and things just started from then. It's pretty amazing the stuff that we've been able to achieve. If we had the guidance, I'm sure we could have gone down a completely different path and things could have been even more different.